Everybody, welcome back. This is Jason Hardy with EliteBBQ Smokers, and this is the Barbecue Roundtable. Thank you for tuning in. We got a great conversation tonight. We'll be able to get some secrets, some information from a gentleman that's got a GC. So let's get started. Well, maybe pull it up. Here you go.
Hey, what's going on, Jason?
How you doing, sir?
Doing marvelous.
All right. Before I mess this up here, how you pronounce your last name?
Nowakoski, a cow that skis. Noah, cow, and a ski.
No, account at skis. That's pretty good.
Nowakowski.
So anybody out there that's trying to get you got a name, you trying to get somebody to remember your name, this is the perfect way to do it here.
Just break it
account
down.
at skis. Break it down. Break it down Barney style, as they say.
There you go.
Oh man, appreciate it. Hey, y'all listen, got any questions, comments, leave in the comment section down below. We appreciate y'all watching. You're on Facebook here, like this page, share it with your friends and family, subscribe to it. If you're watching this after the fact here on YouTube Music, it's the Barbecue Roundtable on YouTube Music, and you live stream it. One day, I'll just be a podcast, I promise you. We're still working on it. One day we'll make that happen. Anybody out there got any help with that, let me know. We appreciate that. But we appreciate y'all being here watching the show. All right, Sam. So what's your team name?
Smokin Ain't EZ Barbecue. And we kind of added a Smokin Ain't EZ Barbecue and catering because we started a little business off the side a couple years ago because I'm lining up. I'm retiring next year in June of next year. So a couple years ago, I started the business, got that all going. So when I retire, we're going to cater a little bit to help support the hobby. How about that? Because it's an expensive hobby.
All right, just for information here. So talk about the retiring situation. Everybody knows retires, so they're working busy and they are when they retired and they work full time. So basically, I'm just saying you change profession to basically choosing what you want to work, not
There
necessarily
you go.
retiring, right?
I'm leaving one after 41 years and going to start another one.
That's awesome. But kind of let's back up a minute here. Let's kind of go back to the foundation here. So we know you cook barbecue competition. Before we kind of get into how you succeeded this past weekend for last here, talk about where'd you get the passion and the foundation for cooking? Did you cook at home, or kind of still backstory for that?
Cooking's always been part of the family. My dad was always grilling, cooking. So we smoke a mullet and we build smokers. And down here in Florida, we smoke a lot of mullet. And we were always barbecuing and grilling something as a kid growing up. So I always been around cookers out there, outside cooking in Florida here. And it just that's how it all started. It was back, I don't know, years ago. I had a buddy of mine I worked with was cooking in Lakeland. I didn't know about barbecue pit masters and stuff. I didn't watch nothing like that on TV. It was back when it was really rolling, and he was cooking there in Lakeland. That used to be Tiger Town. It was a pretty big competition back in the day. I don't know if you remember that one. And I went to go help him just to go see what was going on, and I kind of watched what he was doing. I'm saying, hell, I can do this, you know. And that's kind of where I got my first taste of it, and to sit there and see, he was a backyard team, but see all the commotion of the people. That place would, pack them in there, and it's like the awards, and it was just crazy. And some of the big name people were coming down for this competition, and that's kind of where it started, for me to get the taste of it. And I think it was not much after that. I went and I bought me a offset smoker from down in Sarasota, Florida, from a guy. I think I give about $1,600 for it. Was on a trailer, and I went down there and met him halfway down there and picked it up, brought it up here, and I said, "Well, I guess I'm going to try to do this competition barbecue." Didn't know nothing about it really, other than what I seen with my buddy. So that's kind of where it started on a damn reverse flow, and then my first competition was right here local. It was with FBA, Florida Barbecue Association. It was in Pigs and Z Hills. It was the one they had every year up in Zephyr Hills, Florida. And that's where it all started. Went to that one, packed up, family came out. Hell, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was doing it. So we turned in 4 boxes that day, and I got pictures of it. It's pretty pitiful. But we turned in that day, and the awards came up, and I got a first place chicken call, and that was hook, line, and sinker. After that, man, I says, "Man, this is simple stuff. This is not hard to do. These guys are making this a big deal. I got this little pull behind, So I told my brother-in-law at the time, Edwin, I says, You know what? Next week there's one over there in Eagle Lake, FBA competition, Eagle Lake, Florida. And I says, hell, on this backyard, I'm just going to go pro. I said, we get first place chicken. Man, we went into that one, just chest was bowed up. We pulled in there and we thought we were it, you know. Into that day, I think we were second to the bottom. We finished, and that was like a wake up call. And I think the bottom guy, he DQ'd in one of the meets. We didn't DQ, so we beat him, you know. So I said, no, I think we out of our league. Let's get on back here and get us some backyard. So, but
I
that's some
tell
good
you,
times.
man, it's really humbling. This whole, I mean, I don't say sport because it's what it's hobby, whatever you want to call it, but it's very humbling because when sometimes you feel like you really know what you're doing, you get into it, you turn in good food, and you sit there going like, well, that didn't work. And sometimes you turn in food, you like, man, I just messed up today. And I was done a contest in King, and I was sitting there telling the guys, people with me, I said, that's some rough stuff. And next thing I know, I get calls. They call me sandbag. I'm like, it wasn't that good, but it's just, I reckon that's the whole thing. Is not what we like; it's what judges like. So,
Yep.
scratch your head about that sometimes.
Oh yeah. So we got realigned real quick, like, and fell back in line where we belonged. And then we cooked on that a few more comps, and then I just told my brother-in-law at the time. I said, "Man, we got to get something else. So this is this reverse flow because we're cooking everything on it too, you know." So
Yeah,
I went up to M&R Trailers. They build barbecue pits out of McKinley, Florida, outside of Jacksonville, and I had them build me. I seen these things online. They build them in Texas, you know, the pits, them fancy ones, and they got the wings on them, and the sides awnings, because we're cooking out in the elements. And
right.
I got a reverse flow. Went up there and bought that trailer. It was decked out, boy, but we were in hog heaven, and we started cooking on that. But it took us a while to learn. You know, we was the only ones up at the competition. Everybody was in bed at night, and we were sleeping in the chairs, keeping that fire lit. And I says, man, we're doing something wrong here, Edwin. I said, we got to change something up. I mean, we ain't getting no sleep, you know. We were taking shifts, keeping the pit going. We turned out some pretty good food. We learned how to cook on it, right?
Yeah,
We had different hot spots on there. We had the top left where that heat would come up and roll up on that reverse flow. That was our Texas microwave. We cooked chicken up there. And then you kind of move your meats around on that big pit because it was 5 foot long. We made it. We did, and we did well with it. And we actually we we graduated out of the backyards division. We went to pro with it, and we actually got some decent calls with it. You know, using that pit. But trying to make boxes up in the elements, wind blowing, rain. Everybody's inside trailers. We're outside trying to put boxes together. It's just that wasn't it either. I said we got to change it up. So that's what we moved into and got us a trailer, a barbecue trailer. So we got inside elements to get out of the weather and everything. So, but yeah, it's pretty crazy.
but that goes to progression. Everybody goes through the progression. You start off in a
Hmm.
tent, you go to a trailer, and then you kind of move up into a porch trailer. And some guys still cook on
Yep.
Smoking Scullies and Razor Racks, and some of these guys that still cook on the tailgate truck with some pop up tent. I mean, it's still
Hmm.
done. It really truly
Yep.
is done, but it's special. If you are in a
Yep.
trailer, you can control the environment. You got a few more things doing it. But kind of let's back up a minute here. So for those out there that don't understand or don't know what a reverse flow is, so let's talk about reverse flow. So reverse flow is a stick burner. But the
Hmm.
difference between a reverse flow and regular stick burner is you have the diverter plates underneath the grates. And
Yes,
what
sir.
it does is it takes the heat and it cooks it there. So you got the heat coming from the diverter plates cooking up. And then it comes to the other side and then it comes back across the food and the stack is right over the firebox. So what you do in here is you have two sources of heat in a sense. You got the heat from the bottom that's cooking the bottom of the meat underneath it from the diffuser plates, where you want to call them diverter plates. And then you got the smoke and heat come across top of it. So it's a very efficient way to cook it. If you have it set up right where it's level and the grease will fall on the diverter plates, come over here and it has a grease trap or somewhere to catch it, you can
Hmm.
have it where you don't have never have the flare ups. Now, if you're not careful and it gets from there to the firebox, it's going to be a very easy situation to have a fire and get away from you on the smoker. But a lot of the really well built reverse flows have it controlled, so they don't have that problem in there. But the same situation we have with just direct smoke, like the Outlaws or the Jambos, as the grease drops down the bottom of it, we put pan stuff in to catch it. So I mean, there's some different things to it, but that's a reverse flow. It's a very efficient means to do it. But again, whereas you're doing a standard stick burner going across there's Jambo Outlaw, you can control the fire and temperature because you can kind of start stacking it and laying it out. So you got a continuous heat from one point and then go out to exhaust. And reverse flow, you got to take consideration. I got, okay, heat's gonna be hot here, then it's gonna come back across top here. So you got to really play. Wouldn't say Legos. What you call it when you start taking the board Tetris and start laying stuff out so it flows right. Am I right about that?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. So talking about flare ups, I'll tell you a quick one, real quick. This is a good one. We had that beer bourbon festival in Tampa. I probably shouldn't say this. This is kind of embarrassing, but I think the guys will get a kick out of it. And we went to this beer bourbon thing in Tampa. It was on the river, and we were going to do brisket, like give out brisket samples. So I went to my purveyor, Sean McCraney, Master Purveyors in Tampa. That's where I buy all my meats from, most of my meats from. And he worked the deal out with me, and I got a bunch of prime brisket. We had probably over 350 pounds of brisket on this cooker. And wow. That thing would cook. When you loaded that pit up, it would cook so good. The more meat you put on it, the better it cooked. You know, it just seemed like it was an even cook across that whole thing with all that meat. It kind of kept that temperature. But I had that thing backed up to my barn because I had pulled it out of the barn. And when I backed it up, it was kind of off a little bit. So I cribbed up the one side. So when I backed that trailer up, tried to get it level, pitched a little bit away from the firebox. You know where I'm going with it. So we get all them briskets cooked, color on them beautiful. We started about 1 o'clock on a Friday because we had to have it over there Saturday afternoon. And we had everything wrapped up. We pulled it. I had everything wrapped up in butcher paper and throwed everything back in there. My brother-in-law, we going to sleep in the barn. We're going to keep the fire going all night and just check on it. You know, it was home run. We were end of the day. We're finished, right? Everything's wrapped up and just finished to cook. And I was back in the shop sleeping, and he was smoking his cigar, drinking his bourbon. And he comes, gets me. He says, "Hey," he wakes me up. He says, "Is that supposed to be white smoke coming out of that stack over there?" And I jumped out of that chair like a dumb up. You know what I did? I said, it just gagged it all down. You talking about Backdraft, the movie Backdraft? Man, when I opened them double doors, that thing that sucked that air in there and fire come flying out. The butcher paper was on fire. And we had a mess. We put it all out. The hose, he was wanting to get the fire extinguisher. I said, "No, man, we're going to mess the briskets up." I said, I just sprayed some wire, some water, and foamed it down a little bit and got the fire out. We pulled all them briskets out back on the table, rewrapped them all. But yeah, you got to be careful. That much meat in there, especially that beef like that, all that fat. And what happened, it pitched to that firebox and it started building up and it got hot and it ignited on me. So,
I mean, and that's one of the things you got to be careful. Some of the reverse flows, because a lot of reverse flows are built where the diverter pans pitch towards the firebox. And when you do that, you have this situation. Always be careful with that. And there's some of them's got a gap in it, so it drips down before it gets to the firebox.
Yep.
And then the other ones have it the other way. And so what happens there? The other way is you got a hot spot right over the fire pot with that first diverter pan because it's tilting the other way, and it kind of stalls off the heat. So I mean, there's definitely an art to reverse flow, and it's one of those smokers that you really truly got to understand to keep it level or to jack it up. You got to kind of learn it. But it goes back to a point on somebody's Facebook post I made today, or a YouTube video actually. I made it today. They're talking about pellet smokers and about things are good and bad and everything else. I said, listen, every smoker's got its attitude. My drums have got attitudes. I got to understand that this drum's going to do this, and they're built the same, made the same, whatever you want to. But I promise you, each one's going to have a little bit different attitude for whatever reason, whether it's on the trailer or whatever. And so it's things you got to take consideration. Understand what that smoker's going to do, and then use your cook for that. And it's truly it's one of the most important things is to understand what that smoker's going to do.
So we were cooking on that, and then we did a competition at Popka, and we ended up winning a drum, like a homemade drum smoker. It had a Flame Boss on it. Actually, we got reserve grand, and the guy that won grand champion they're the ones that built it. So when they got grand, that was the trophy, and then they just give it to me. So they give it to me, and we started playing around with that. So we had the reverse flow. We had the first drum with the controller on it. You know, it was just basically a homemade drum with a Flame Boss controller on it, and we were cooking on that. You know, and then um, that's kind of where the drums came in a little bit. Um, and then we ended up getting another drum. We went and got a Gateway because Tim Malloy from Backyard Bros. I'm sure I don't know if you ever had him on your
Oh, yeah, I
show.
know Tim.
He come out. We were down in Venice, Florida, and he gets wound up at night, and he spilled oil. And he come to me and telling me how we need to start cooking ribs on the Gateway, and he give us everything. So I went and got me a Gateway, and I was feeling pretty good at the time. I really wasn't paying attention other than talking to him. But my son Sammy's there, and he's taking notes. It's all mentally logged in his head. Everything Tim was saying that night. So I went and bought me a Gateway, and that was cooking hanging ribs. And he's basically taught me how to hang ribs and cook ribs, and that was quite a few years ago. And I still hang ribs to this day, and still do really well with them hanging. So
Tim's a heck of a cook. Tim Malloy, he is. But I still, man, that bullhorn he's got. We stole it from one night. Golly bum. I done an interview with him at Greenwood one year, and it was a really good interview. He was a handful, but a great guy, truly is. So, question for you here now. So, you went with the reverse flow. You had a homemade drum with a fan system on it, and then you had a Gateway drum. Tell me, in your opinion, the fan system on the drums, the homemade drums, compared to a Gateway. What did you notice the biggest pros and cons for each one in that perspective?
I think it was an easier learning curve with the controller because basically you'd load that basket up, put your meats in there, set the controller what temperature, and it run all night. You didn't really have to pay much attention to it. The Gateway, we first got it, man, we was all over the place with it. I mean, we practiced, we had hot, cold. I mean, we just couldn't. That seemed like we could never regulate it worth a darn. And then just over time and just kind of dial it in and dial it in. And now it's like that's the only thing we cook. We cook our ribs on the Gateway. That's the only thing we do. Um, and it's start to finish about 2 hours 15 minutes. I mean, from the time we put them on and take them off, wrap them, let them rest. If we give ourselves about 2 hours and 15 minutes, we can put them in a box. So we got that dialed in, and it's pretty much needles up on that one, 300 degrees on that. So, but I got the old hickory. I'm still running my, I tried hot and fast. I just feel like, I don't know. I need more drums, buy more drums, but I just feel like I got the equipment. I got it dialed in on the old hickory. Once you get that thing up and running, it's insulated no matter what the weather is outside. You set the thermostat and let it roll. So I still like my big meats. I'll tell you straight up, my brisket and my pork butts are still going low and slow. I cook them through the whole night, and I, I think you're getting the same product at the end. It's just hot and fast or low and slow. I think it's a different flavor. I like the flavor of the ribs. I like that smell, that taste, and I think that taste plays a big part in the turn-in box where you don't get too much of that smoky flavor on your meat, which our meat's not too smoky, but you get more of that grilled meat. And I think that's the key today is that grilled char, not really char, but that grilled flavor in your meat.
Yeah.
Is pretty popular today. And that's what you see out there, right? You go out these competitions now, pretty much, the gravity smokers, there's still a few people got some gravities out there. There's a few out there. I don't want to, upset anybody, but I don't see that many gravity smokers out there. I see drums. Everybody's cooking on drums and everybody's hot and fast. Now, is that something that I need to change? I don't know.
So to your point out there, I think a lot of people are doing drums. I think a lot of people are doing stick burners. I think it's probably I'd say it's probably a 65 to 35 cans, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe not truly. I think probably 50% out there doing cans. There's probably 35% doing stick burners, and there's probably 10 to 15% doing something different on
Mm-hmm.
that. Pellet smokers, whatever it is. I will say this though: a lot of guys that's been really successful are doing a combination of drums and cabinet smokers or stick burners or whatever, because they're able to
Yeah.
get that flavor originally, and then they wrap it and put it in the ovens, just
Yeah.
old hickories or whatever, and then they can control everything from that point
Mm-hmm.
forward. So I think there's a lot of people doing that, and it's truly been successful with that. I took a class, and we'll talk about class in a minute, but I kind of bring something point kind of you talked about here. I took a class, and it was Tim Shear and Brad Legend. Tim and Brad was teaching class, and it was at Tim's place out there in Missouri. And they had 8 drums cooking for the class out there. Of the 8 drums, if I'm not mistaken, only 2 of them the thermometers worked on there. The rest of them didn't work. And for somebody like myself that wants to have everything controlled,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of just blowing my mind in one aspect of it. But it did teach me a very important thing. They taught me in there to say, okay, you got to focus on whatever the meat's doing in the smoker. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Tim is such a consistent and a top-notch cook, because he can do a lot in 5 minutes that I can't do. He's just got that flavor profile. Hats off
Mm-hmm.
to him on that. But I think the other thing he does is, instead of myself getting really tied up sometimes into a timeline, I think he's looking at it, okay, does it have the color I want it? Does it have the texture I'm looking to it? And I think that's his focus. Whereas mine sometimes, like, all right, my chicken, if it ain't off by 11:30, I'm freaking out because
Mm-hmm.
it's messed my whole world up. And I think that's just kind of the story with that. When you start looking at it again, knowing the smokers, what you got, let's say you got works, your old hickory works, your little gateway drum works, and your other smokers work. You got the whole process and it works, and you got GC off of it. So I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
compliments to you for a process that works.
Yeah. Um, it's what I feel comfortable with, and I guess that's where it's at. It's what you feel comfortable with. I'm always looking for a challenge and something new. Don't get me wrong. But for right now, we've done well. We've we went outside the state of Florida, some really big competitions, and did well the last year or two. Uh, with with the method we're cooking right now. So I don't know. We're gonna hang in there for a little while with it, but I do like that sleep until 5 o'clock in the morning, because we still up a little bit. We don't sleep through the
Yeah.
night. We're still checking on things, but I don't know. The older I get, I'm kind of liking see that 5 o'clock in the morning, firing up them gateways and rolling with it. So it's something maybe I'll eventually down the road look into. So
I think one of the things that made us go hot and fast is I had my old trailer 2 or 3 trailers back. I had with a toy hauler. I had my smokers mounted inside of it, and I was doing low and slow. I put my pork on and my brisket on there, and I go to bed.
hmm
Well, I get at 4:30 in the morning, going kind of getting ready to put my other meats on it, and I had a fire. And when I opened the door, I had the same thing. A backdraft. I was in Indianapolis. If you had a fire, and I was able to control it and everything else. But my wife, after that point, she wouldn't sleep in the trailer if I was cooking low and slow. She like, man, it ain't happening. So it kind of forced my hand to reevaluate how I was cooking,
yeah,
because me and my wife go together, and I want her to
sure,
continue to go with us, but it was kind of like she's like, no, I don't trust it, and I
yeah,
understand kind of where she come from,
hmm
but I was like, dang. So we had to go hot and fast, and I think now I say this, I think the window for air and hot and fast is super small.
hmm
Um, and I think
That's
it's
what
one of the
scares
things
me. I think that's what scares me.
and it is. I mean, it's like super small. I mean, somebody see me at a contest, like, man, you're working your ass to death, because every 15 minutes I'm doing something to smokers.
hmm
And part of the reason is because I can't sit still. Anybody knows me knows that I'm a jackrabbit, can't sit still, moving around all the time. But it's like every 15 minutes, I need to touch it, either feel the top of it, need to kind of see what's going on.
hmm
And I was talking to a guy today, and he's like, the old adage is, if you're looking, you ain't cooking. He said, it don't work for you. I said, I know, really. If I ain't looking, it ain't cooking. I got to see it.
Yep, yep. So
But it's a good situation to have. All right. So you come into this weekend, like I said, you done Poozy Q. out back, and you were telling me that the other day. We're talking about this. So you went to BBQ, out of Florida, because you do a lot in Florida. You went down to
Hmm.
Alabama up there, and you done pretty solid up there.
Yeah, actually, 2 years ago, we was up there, and we pulled a third place overall. I think we got a brisket call and a pork call. We got a seventh and eighth, or a ninth and eighth, and we were happy because right, you go there, right? You go, that the talent that's out there, woo, son. There's some cookers that were there that year from all over the
Yeah.
country, because I believe that was still points chasing. I can't remember how that worked, but there was a lot of heavy hitters in there at that competition, and we were struggling in pork, and we tried something different on the pork at that one. We went way outside the box on that because pork was terrible. And all you do to go to these big competitions, you just want to hear your name called. That's just the gratification
Yeah.
of hearing your name called, your team name called. Uh, and we got a, like you said, the two calls, so we were happy. I was good with that. I'm ready to go home. This is good. We got two calls, and we're sitting there. They're doing the top 10 overall, and that's, well, maybe we got a shot. We don't know this when the field's that big. You get two calls. I've seen people get no calls and get in the top 10. You know, so I said, let's just hang in there, and they started going up the ladder and getting up around, I think, about fifth place, and then they called fourth place. It was Brad at fourth, and I looked at my brother-in-law and my sister and my son. I said, we ain't gonna get no call. We're done. We got our two calls. Brad just got a call. We ain't gonna beat Brad. And then they called third place, Smokin Ain't EZ barbecue. And man, that was one of the that was a good feeling that day, to know that we felt like we were there, that we can cook
Yeah.
with the best, the rest of them. And the other one too, we went up to South Carolina 2 years ago. We pulled out a reserve grand champion, and Jason, Smoke Central. He beat the field that day. I mean, he killed us by 10 points. We were a reserve, but we had a first
Where's
place
that
rib
at?
call, Greenwood, South Carolina.
Okay. Yeah.
That was 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago.
You
He
there this
got
past year?
No, I didn't make it this past year. We didn't go
Okay.
up there. I was not able to make it, but he had grand and we got reserve, but he beat the field big time. I mean, he beat us by 10. But we got a first place in ribs. We actually tied first place in brisket. In it was second place. No chicken call, no pork call. I'm saying, well, you're with the field of 100 guys. Anything's possible,
Yeah.
right? We got two high calls, and we end up getting reserve grand. So, you know, that's where I feel like we made it, in a sense, when we can go on the stage like that with the talent that's out there is cooking today, and we feel like we hang in there. I used to broil to these things, going in when I went pro side. I was very intimidated. We'd roll up there. I was intimidated because you had the guys like Rub Bagby, Swamp Boys. You had Tim Malloy, Backyard Bros, Matt Barber, Hot Wachulas. That's that's the competition that we were up against every weekend here at FBA, and you better strap it on, and be ready, because they'll take you down. And so I was kind of intimidated at first, but now I just feel like when we roll up, I feel like we cook with the best of them, and not getting arrogant about it. I just feel confident now in our cook, and I feel confident we can turn in some good turn-ins. You know what I'm saying? It's the cook, right? So,
It's
but Jason, I'll tell you a story about Jason. Chicken has been our nemesis, our team's nemesis for the last couple of years. Chicken has cost us so many top tens. I mean, we would be ranked up there, you know, up there in the top 10, and chicken that kick us out every time. Chicken, just chicken. And I called Jason. Well, I think we went to the Puzaku this past year. I think we finished 13th, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 13th, 14th place. Guess what was hurting us? Chicken. I mean, we were right there. If we would have got a chicken up a little bit, we would have got a top 10 finish at Puzaku this year. And I called him on the phone. I said, Jason, I need some help. I need help me tweak this chicken a little bit. And we talked on the phone and swapped some stuff back and forth. Me and my brother-in-law, we practice and practice. And we went to, well, that was after that one. And then our next one, was here in Plant City because we didn't really do many more because I wasn't doing any FBA at the time. And the next one was KCBS right here, Plant City, and we ended up getting a first place chicken call with that new recipe. Perfect
Natty
score
Bird.
too at that. Yep, perfect
Natty
score
Bird.
chicken. So,
Speaking of the man right there.
but you know, you can have someone tell you and tell you and tell you this, tell you that, but you know what? You still got to go out there and cook the damn food. You still got to cook it. You still got to get it ready. You still got to season it. You still got to do all the things to it. You know, it ain't going to happen on its own. But man, that you talking about a relief, you know, it's like, oh my God. And a perfect score on top of it was like, you know, that's what was amazing. Because that was, I think, our only second perfect score. We last year at Lakeland, we got a perfect score in brisket. First place brisket. Perfect score. I didn't know what the hell that meant. Perfect. What does that mean? You know?
Well, I'm saying, man, that Natty Bird chicken is, there's a lot of people running it now. And it's I mean, Jason should have been teaching class on that a long time ago. All right. So Chuck, got a question up here. So if you're hanging ribs, how many bones do you trim the racks down to? And on which bone do you hang the ribs on?
I trim them down because I got family that comes out, so I don't trim a whole lot off of them. Actually, I maybe knock the first 3 bones off the slab, and I'm hanging on the thicker side, putting the thin side down. I guess you want to call it. I don't know how to explain more than that. The thin side, the thick side of the rib. I'm hanging on that first bone.
The long bones is hanging up at top. The thin bone, the short bones are at the bottom.
Yep. So, and I don't know. Well, you know, and it comes and goes, like you say.
All right, so the internet, just since you give away the secret here, just decided to kind of glitch out on us. This was not planned. So
right. You still got to cook them.
Still got to cook. So y'all got the whole internet glitching thing here. Just let you know, all of that was he planned all that. Kind of hit his button. All right, so you basically hang on the second bone down from the top, correct?
Yep.
And then that's kind of what you got. So you're probably cooking 10 to 12 bones on there, and you're doing it. And the thought process is your 6 in the middle is going to kind of be protected, and you can do it. Now, do you hang yours with the meat towards the fire or meat towards outside drum?
Meat towards the fire.
Yep. So
2 on,
if
2
you
off.
hang, sir,
I can't say. I already said it. 2 on, 2 off. 2 on the fire, 2 off the fire. You got to figure that
kind of gives. But for those that understand that, if you take it and you put the bone side facing the fire, that membrane and stuff is going to start hitting really hard, have a tendency for the ribs to fall apart. But if you cook it with the meat side facing the fire in there, it has a little protection and it won't be quite so falling apart on you sometimes. I know a lot of people have a hard time with hanging ribs. That's my experience with that.
But there's only 2 on the fire, 2 off the fire. So they're not both. I cook 4 slabs, all I cook. So I have 2 over the coals, 2 off the coals. Yeah. There's a shield down there. So then you just rotate every 15, you know, and I usually, we do an hour, but it may not be an hour. It may be longer than an hour because I'm looking for color. I'm looking for that color. You know what I'm saying? So it may not be an hour. It may be an hour, 15 minutes. We continue to rotate till we feel like, okay, I look at them, tell the guys, yep, they got the color I want. Pull them, you know, then we do our thing to them.
So what he's saying here is kind of gets back to what I was saying earlier about the class I took with Brad and Tim. A lot of times I like to cook by a timeline. And when you're cooking with drums on here, you are cooking based on the meats. Like you were saying right now, an hour and 15, whatever it is, you're looking for color. You're looking for that meat to tell you what it's ready to do. I think that's kind of where you start looking at that style cooking, different than anything else out there. You've got to truly look at the drum, at the smoker, at the meat in the smoker and what it's doing, what it's looking like, how it's going to help you and go forward from there. Agree with that?
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yep. Because I'm going to get them done. You know, even I said I got my timeline there, 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I may spend a little more time on cover. cook the shit out of them and get them done. You know, I'll turn that heat up and get them done. I'll get them tender. You know what I'm saying? I'll just force that. You know, I don't like to force them. We've had to force them before to make the timelines, but I just rather just bring them up slowly and try to force them up. You know, I think the texture is a little bit different. You gradually bring them up the temperature.
You know, I think I've gotten hurt worse on ribs than is cooking them so early and letting them rest and letting them they get tighten back up on there. And I just haven't thrown it back on there, loosen them back up again. But I think that's kind of what's hurt me on my ribs. Going good and bad. I'm looking at the score. I'm like, they're tight because they've been resting too damn long.
Yeah. What do you with resting? How long do you say resting? You say an hour, half an hour resting?
If I am within 40, if I'm resting 45 minutes, I got a pretty solid rib. This will score good. If it rests for an hour plus, that rib's gonna tighten up on there. I don't care what I do to it. It's gonna just cause me some problems.
Yeah. We get them to a certain point. I'll pull them. We'll throw them in a tray. Throw some towels over them, just set them right there in the sun. Just set them on the back of the trailer. Just let them sit there till about 15 minutes before we get ready to box and set the sauce and everything. But it's normally with that time frame that we set our times to, they're not resting no more than 30 minutes, probably less than 30 minutes. Our ribs are resting. So.
And I think that's the concern I have with hot and fast on ribs because I'm trying to push the timeline. I want time to make a box. And I think sometimes I'm playing it too safe.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just an issue that my mental head's got to work around because I was sitting beside a guy and he were doing very well at the contest. I remember who it was. But he was like, him sitting yonder, he's got 10 minutes to go and his ribs ain't done yet. I'm like, dude, I'd be having a stroke right now. End up winning the contest. So, the way it works.
Yeah.
I don't do a deflector plate on my ribs. How about you?
No. I have a throwaway one down there. I foil.
I do water pan on my ribs.
Oh, really?
Doing that. Yeah, water pan on my ribs.
I want as much grease down in that fire. I want that grease to flare up. That's where I think that flavor we talked about earlier, that flavor comes from. That little bit of flavor sometimes, I think, depending on the judges, but sometimes I think that's what kind of puts you over that edge, because they're not any type of smoky rib. Sometimes I think smoky ribs is not what they want, but it's got that grilled flame flavor to it, and I think that's a turn on in the judging world today, right now, so I did something to it. Plant City I'd never ever done. I sauced the brisket. I set sauce on a brisket. I says, I think the people are saucing briskets. So I sauced it, and I should have didn't sauce it because it was a good brisket that day, and I think I killed it. But we took 10th place in brisket, but I should have never sauced the brisket. I should have just did my normal,
Hey, you got GC, man.
I know.
I mean,
but that 10th place, that wasn't good. We used to do better in brisket. So.
Yeah.
So the problem.
So, question for you.
Go ahead.
So, the question for you. I know the hour turn in, the box is different, everything else, but from a texture and a flavor perspective, how different is FBA and KCBS? Not box presentation, just from the actual food.
Well, Casey, for one, I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings here. I just think the flavor profile like we cook, our team cooks, it goes well with KCBS. People say, well, people that cook FBA say, well, I cook the same way in KCBS. You don't change nothing. And I think FBA is maybe GBA. It's like sauce sweet. If it's not sweet, go sweeter. Where I think KCBS is maybe the sweet, but maybe just a touch of a little. I'm not saying a heat because you don't want to burn judge's mouth, and I'm not saying heat, but that little back end maybe heat I think plays a better part of our flavor profile for KCBS. And we we did quite a few FBAs. I mean, we were that that's where we started. That's where we learned through FBA. But I never was willing to change the way I cooked. I think the best we've ever did there with that group was I think we took a third place. I think one time we beat Sweet Smoke, not Sweet Smoke Q. We beat Pig Chicka Cow. I mean, we were pumped. We were jacked. I think they finished fourth. We finished third. But I think that's the highest we ever finished, third overall in FBA. We've had some top tens, but the highest we've ever finished, we never got a reserve. I don't believe we ever got a reserve in the pro side. So I and I could be wrong, right? I just feel like the profile is different, and I'm not willing to accept the change. And I could be wrong. There's probably some FBI guys on here saying he don't know what he's talking about. I maybe not know what I'm talking about. It's just that's me personally.
I mean, nobody cooks the same. We cook the same recipes. We do the same Natty Bird's a perfect example. There's probably a dozen people that are cooking the recipe, but they're all cooking a little bit different. No matter follow the recipe, we're cooking on different smokers and different stuff. So I mean, like you said, I've never cooked FBA, so I do not know the FBA standard, but I know the South Carolina Barbecue Association. When you cook that and you cook KCBS, similarities, yes. Are they the same? No. Flavor profiles can be different, and they're going to score differently.
And I think that's the same with FBA and KCBS. Almost what you just said, identical. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's similarities, but I think at the end of the day, I think as for SCBA, because can't speak on FBA. I think the texture is different. I think the flavor is different. I think a lot of pieces are different on there. So what is successful in SCBA may or may not be successful in KCBS. From my experience, it wasn't. I had to change my recipes. The Southern Barbecue Network, I think it's pretty close to KCBS in the flavor profiles. And the box is a little bit different stuff here. But FBA, I do tend to talk to different people. Probably goes a little bit sweeter on that. Speaking of
I love building the KCBS box. To me, it's so fast. You can pop them things in there. That meat at FBA, you got to load some meat in there to make it look good, right? You can't be sparse on your meat. You got to load that thing up, and you got to be careful, right? Because it's all got to be good, because it's all going to be tasted. But if you really got to fill that box up with meat, to make it look presentable. But then you got to be careful what you put in there. So.
Yeah, it's definitely a dangerous. I mean, the level of difficulty for your garnishes is a lot different between the two situations. I'm running on gateway drums. You were saying you do a gateway, and the other one was. Are you still cooking on the other drum?
No, I have that at the house here. I personally cook on it for myself, but no, just the gateway in the old hickory, and then I got that mailbox cooker from Deep South on the trailer too. But the only reason I bought that is we like to grill. It's really a vertical drum is all it is. We run a controller on that one too. Actually, I run that flame bus on it. We cook our chicken on that one. But we like to grill and eat dinner on Friday night, so I can move that charcoal pan up top and we can grill steaks and stuff on it. And that's kind of a dual function for us personally. But then we said, hell, let's just, instead of getting another drum, I said, hell, let's just use that for the chicken. We kind of got that. My brother-in-law's got that thing dialed in on chicken, and that's what we cook our chicken on. So maybe chicken on the mailbox, hanging ribs on the drum, and big meats on the old hickory CTO.
It works. All right, so now talk about your GC this weekend. Last weekend.
Well, I can tell you, I think Friday morning, because it's close to where we live. It's one of the closest ones we have around here. And I left the house that morning after she was going to work. And I said, you know what? I said, we're going to go win grand champion this weekend. And not being cocky about it. It's just, we've been there like 7 years. We've gotten the top 10. We missed here a little bit. And I just felt like, you know what? Damn it. It's been 6-7 years. We're going to go win the damn thing. And damn it, we didn't do it. We rolled in there, and it didn't feel like any different. The cook was any different than the past, other than the chicken. I mean, that was a whole new profile and everything we were running, something different, the timelines. The thing about it is, it was so close to what we were already doing. Um,
Yeah.
the cooking process was almost identical, and the flavor profile a little bit different. But we cooked. We felt good about the turn-ins. And I tell you something else too. You got to be careful with is when you close them lids, you turn it in there, and I don't really taste my food too much. I can cut through my food. I know it's going to be good or not just by looking at it. That's why you got my son and my brother-in-law and my sister. They tasting for me, and my son, he's very subjective. He's gonna tell me if it's good or not. And we were very comfortable, but sometimes you get so caught in your head where, man, that brisket was the best we've ever cooked, and you go to awards and you only get a call. So I just
Oh
kind of
yeah.
like, it happens a lot. It's like, wow, what happened here? What am I missing? And but but I don't know. That day it was just everything was rolling. Like you said, it's a hometown crowd. We had a lot of family out there that came that afternoon after turn-ins and kind of lay out the food for them. Just felt good about it. It was that same feeling that, hey, we closed 4 good lids. Let's see what happens. And damn it, and the awards came, and the chicken call blew us up. I mean, I think my son, he beat on me when they called our name. He was excited. So, and that's like, hell, we're sitting pretty good. We got a chicken call, right? Because I know we can cook ribs, and our pork has been doing good too. We kind of changed some stuff up on our pork, some flavors and stuff like that, and we've been doing really well. Been scoring really good on the pork the last couple competitions, and we ended up getting a first place pork call. So we're sitting with the first and a sixth. I said, that brisket, we sauced that brisket. Remember, I told you? I said, I think I just screwed us. And there was another team there, uh, Rob Dobb, his team, and we were like back and forth. They were on a roll too that day, and we were just finishing ahead of them, and it got to the end, and my son said, "Dad, we got it," and I don't know, Sammy. We got to see where that brisket comes in at, and we were actually up there getting, so I think our first place in pork, taking a picture up there, and that guy said, "Hey, just hang around here." And they ended up calling us 10th place. And when they called 10th place brisket, I felt like it was a lock right there. But anything's possible, right? Anything happened, and but it wasn't. It was my first grand champion in the pro division, and I had a guy tell me, Kenny, what was his name of his team? Kenny. I'm bad with names. Um, he did some FBA with KCBS, and he tells Sam, he says, "You're going to win your first grand champion in KCBS. When you win, you're going to win KCBS grand champion." And damn it for that, and what happened? Um, but yeah, that was our first one. Like you say, we've come close in a lot of the big events. Great feeling, but I didn't feel like, you know, I was relieved that it happened, and hopefully more to come, because I feel like we're on point, and it's stacked up first of the year here in Florida. I mean, we got 10 KCBS competitions in Florida now. That's crazy. That's
All right. So
crazy.
let's kind of talk about that a second here. So for y'all that do not know this, GBC is rebranding and is going to the Southeastern Barbecue Championship,
Hmm.
and that's going to include the states of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, and Tennessee. So all of those states, if there's a KCBS contest in those states, it's going to
Hmm.
have a chance to go for a points chase Southeastern Barbecue Championship. So if you're not a member of that, you need to sign up to become a member of that
Oh yeah.
to do that. But it's going to have a lot of points chasing in this area. It coming out getting Florida and coming out getting Georgia. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this year, because it's going to be pretty cool to see all these points chases going on this year in the Southeast.
Yeah, because they're stacked up here too. I joined the other day because I thought that was pretty interesting. I like that idea. You know, because we're just
Yep.
so far away from everything. And really to try to chase points, there's a few guys that can do it that don't live in the Kansas City, Missouri area. But if you look the big picture, a lot of them teams are up in that area. They can travel about an hour, 2 hours every weekend and do a competition. Where we were down here on out here in left field. But now, like I said, we got 10, and it kicks off first year. Will be at Jimmy Jam Barbecue Slam up there in North Florida,
Yep.
outside of St. Augustine. We'll be there, and then a couple weeks later, we'll be in Lakeland, and then the week
Yep.
after Lakeland, you will be at I think it's Smoke on the Water, and then right
Yep.
after that, you got one in, I believe it's I don't think it Ribs on the Ridge, but there's something going on here too. They posted something, Triple Crown. They're going to do a Triple Crown. Trying to think, Whiskey Mint Barbecue. They're going to throw another $1,500 out there, first, second, third place, and they call it a Triple Crown. And it's going to
Yep.
include Lakeland, Ribs on the Ridge, Lakeland. There's three of them. I forget which three. Lakeland. Oh, Smoke on the Water, Ribs on the Ridge. Those three, and they call it the Triple Crown. So top points, first, second, third place, something like that. In addition, so
But I think there's going to be an awesome opportunity this year in the Southeast that has a bunch of contests with the point shapes we have, and have a lot of teams going for being able to come out and cook, which is what organizers need.
mm-hmm.
So definitely do it. And if you're not competing, you just want to support it, you can still become a friend of the Southeastern Barbecue Championship and be part of that, judges and everything else. We're going to start laying up banquets and stuff like that. So it'll be a great organization to be part of.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's going to definitely, this year's going to be a game changer with a lot of stuff going on in the Southeast, because it's going to be an opportunity. Like I said, Florida's going to have 10 contests. Georgia's going to have, I think it's 8. South Carolina right now is possibly be 2. I think North Carolina got 6, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many's in Tennessee and Alabama. So, I mean, there's going to be a good opportunity for some teams out here in the Southeast to really to have an opportunity out and cook.
No, sir, I think it's a great thing. I think it's a long time coming, have something like that here in the Southeast. So
that's going to be an awesome opportunity with that. But, I mean, congratulations on the GC. I know it's your first one. Like you said, you've been cooking consistently, been cooking for a while. And so, therefore, it's kind of like you've learned the situation. You kind of know what to expect going into it. And I think that says a lot when you start winning a contest and you actually have the understanding and be like, okay, we've earned it. We've gotten there. And it's definitely a different feeling than just kind of getting lucky, I should say.
Yeah. No, I don't, I think that plays a part in it. I think, the tables and stuff like that. And maybe we've come on the bottom end of that here and there. I just like the scoring. I like the scoring part of it, because at FBA, one judge can like kill you,
Yeah.
Or at least in KCBS, that one score kind of gets tossed, so it kind of helps out somewhat. But it's still, it's so subjective, but you still, every one of these guys out there can cook their butts off. Every team out there in a pro division cook their butts off and could win grand champion every week. I mean, they may have a little flub up in the meat and didn't do well or something. They own it. They own up to it. But in general, most everybody out there can cook their butts off. And I think it comes down to that table once in a while to get that little edge, get you over the top. But it was a tough too, because the scoring was really low. I think we won by like 6 points from first to second place. But when you're pulling 174s and getting first place in a pork at 174, they were pretty tough judges. I mean, I think our highest score was 176. I think our chicken was like a 176 something. Our pork was first place at 174. Hell, our brisket was 168 or 169 at 10th place. So they were pretty rough judges out there, I think, judging that day, and that was across the board. So,
well, and yeah, I think that's kind of the stuff here, and we don't get into it tonight. And KCBS is going through some growing pains.
Sure.
But I think there's a lot of stuff going on that I'm thinking KCBS is working on that can do better, and I hope they have a good time. So we got here was a perfect score of 180, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yep. Yeah, it was.
So you had a 180 in the chicken category.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of, like I said, that actually, like I said, you start doing a contest, getting 170 and averaging 174 contest. Also, you got a first place 5 points on first place 180. That makes a difference in the outcome of the
Mm-hmm.
concept of the
Mm-hmm.
contest. I mean, that's that 5 points you're talking about there between first and second, right there.
Yeah. Oh
Picking
yeah.
call.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, 180 can release a lot of mistakes on that when you start going competitive field here. But I think we had the opportunity to do that. So last question here. How'd you come up with the team name?
Oh God, that's back in 2014. I don't know. My son. I don't know where the heck it came from or how it came about. And it honestly, I really, really don't. Um, I don't know where it even came from. It was just the slang. Smoking ain't easy. And, I will say it ain't easy. It ain't easy. And actually, the logo. My boy went to University of Florida. God bless his soul on the football team there. But his roommate, he did artwork, and he's the one that created that logo. And we just kind of like branded that smoking ain't the E and the Z as easy, And that's what people say. Smoking ain't easy. No, it ain't easy. It's a rough out there. So, but that's where the name came from, and it's just kind of stuck. I think at one time it had a pig on it. We had a pig holding a platter back in the day with some meat on it, and it's kind of stuck out with that logo. He created that thing, and we kind of rolled with it, and kind of I like that. It's probably kind of goes. I don't know what the hell it is. I think it's a barrel with some holes, top of a barrel or something like that. But whatever it is.
Well,
So,
ladies and gentlemen, there you got the truth of it. He don't know what it is. It's just a cool logo. And he like it. That's pretty much what we got right there. It's a cool logo. We like it. Well, Sam, appreciate you coming on the show here. Great show. You got any sponsors you can give a shout out to?
no, just really, I don't really have no sponsors. Basically, Sean McCraney, Master Purveyor. I get my meats from him, and I get my A9s from Butcher Shop. We cook A9, and most of my pork and everything. My chicken comes from Sprout Supermarket. We have a Sprouts down here. They got all natural chicken. We cook chicken, all natural chicken. That's pretty much it. I don't have no sponsors, man. And honestly, that's kind of how we roll. We just kind of roll under the radar, So, but I'm a Heath Riles man. Pretty much everything in my cabinet, you open it up, it's got Heath Riles. It's basically the base. A lot of the bases on all of our stuff. Now we throw some other stuff on it, but that's our base, and it seems like it's rolling pretty good. Good product. So, but anyway, I appreciate you having me on tonight, and want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Hope coming up here, I'll actually be here before you know it. So,
man, I tell you, it's crazy how fast it goes.
I mean to tell you,
yeah. Seriously, if y'all watch the listening show, we appreciate y'all listening to the show. Make sure you share it on Facebook and YouTube out there. Go to YouTube Music, the Barbecue Roundtable. You can watch listen to any past show we got in there. One day we do a podcast, and hopefully one day get some help to make that happen, because we need some help to make it happen. I'll give a shout out to our sponsors. Again, if you want briskets in there, if you use the code EliteBBQ10, you get 10% off your briskets at St. River Farms. You get Wagyu, the Wagyu's Competition. You got Royal Oak Charcoal, Heath Riles. Links down below for that here. You also got Thermal Works and Atlanta Barbecue Store. Make sure you check all them guys out. Links down below. If you got any questions, reach out to us, DM us, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we got some stuff on Twitter. So appreciate y'all watching. See you next time.
Thank you.